Hello, everyone. It's Dan King here, as always, from Fireside Strategic. My pleasure to be with Adam Tartt, CEO of CAP3 today. In the Fireside Chat series, we profile what we call creator CEOs. We see CEOs along a spectrum of, on the one hand, engineers who are beautiful at optimizing systems, and on the other hand, creator CEOs, CEOs who see new possibilities, people who really care about the impact they make. Every CEO has some of this in them. But for us, we're particularly excited about creator CEOs and sharing their journeys with the world because there's always so much to learn from them. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Adam Tartt to you today. Adam, welcome to the show, and would love you to give listeners just a little bit about your background in CAP3.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you, Dan, for having me. Super excited to join you today and to talk through a little bit about CAP3 and what makes our organization special and really our passion in the world of business. And so just a real quick overview of what CAP3 does. CAP3 is an organization that operates as the accounting and finance department for small businesses all over the country. And really what that means is we get to partner with rockstar entrepreneurs all over the country. They got into business because they were really passionate about a product or a service, loved what it was they did, but perhaps lacked the background, the skill, the education, the experience to effectively run their organization from a financial perspective. And so we just love partnering with these passionate entrepreneurs that are rock stars at selling their products, scaling their business, managing vendor relationships, while we can come in and do all the boring, mundane stuff, which is get their financial house in order as it relates to their business, put really good accounting processes in place, and provide them with useful, accurate, meaningful financial information to enable them to make better decisions for their business.
Yeah, it is a big need out there. And I just think about our client base of very creative CEOs. They see so much. They see so many exciting possibilities. Their minds are not naturally gravitating towards the financial aspect of things. It's probably just not the most exciting bit of the business for them.
I would agree. And I think it's one of the things that while accounting isn't always considered exciting, it's one of the things that keeps our world very exciting. It's because, again, we get to have phenomenal conversations with very creative thinkers, passionate people that, again, are really rock stars in their world. And we get to see light bulbs go off because as they are idea people and coming up with ways to conquer the world in their area, we're able to really change the game for them and start showing them how the numbers can be instructive and how important they are. To give them useful information to really make better decisions for their business, which ends up impacting their customers, their clients, their employees, everyone, right? And so that's that's a super exciting time.
Yeah, for sure. Can you give our listeners maybe a case study, an example of a situation where you were able to provide that value really, really quickly and powerfully?
Yeah, there's several things kind of come to mind when you ask that question. I've got lots of examples. Which is exciting in and of itself. But I'll give you a couple of things. First of all, again, we partner with entrepreneurs that are in various points in their life cycle of their business, right? So some are earlier in the life cycle of their business. Some have been in business for several years and have just kind of done the best they knew how, right? They didn't really understand what they didn't know. They've just kind of made it work. That's what entrepreneurs do, right? We just kind of make things work. And so I'll give you an example of a situation which is really kind of near and dear to my heart because we had a phenomenal business owner, very, very creative woman that is in business and has a great product, but was really on the verge of kind of financial ruin, both in her business and personally. And so we were able to step in and really put some good things in place in the course of her business, but also even help her understand personally how to manage her personal finances better so that she can make better decisions personally. And so we go from a situation where someone's kind of, really on the verge of bankruptcy personally, business was struggling financially, to a point where, debt is paid off, money in the bank personally, business is doing phenomenally well, managing their cash flow from a much more strategic standpoint rather than a reactive standpoint, And so stories like that, I've got long lists of those.
I love it. No, that's so
Yeah.
hugely important. And I think one of the little discussed aspects of entrepreneurship is how much financial trouble so many entrepreneurs are in. So
Yeah.
many of us are used to this, especially entrepreneurs or freelancers that are transitioning from a salary, right, to this very different, more variable cash flow existence. There's all kinds of financial challenges that come from that. And so I think you're not only is this important work, but I think as entrepreneurs, if we can create the space to actually talk about finances, many of us don't because finances are one of those subjects like death and sex and taxes that are just really, really weighted. They're heavy. But I think we do ourselves a disservice by not talking about how financially challenged many entrepreneurs are.
I agree with you, and I think that really one of the things that happens fairly early on in a relationship or an engagement with CAP3 is we start to train the business owner to think a little differently as it relates to cash flow and financials and finances in general. So as you can imagine, you start a conversation with an entrepreneur, or just generally speaking, entrepreneurs, or the way they manage cash is, well, what's in the bank today? Like, what's there today? What bills are piling up on my desk, and which ones can I push off a little more? Like, that's kind of the extent of their cash management. And
Yeah.
so we train them very early on. We start thinking about that differently, right? We're strategic in our the way we manage our cash. For instance, one of the things, kind of a deliverable of CAP3 that we do for every single one of our clients, is we do a weekly cash budget and a 13-week cash projection. So every single week, the owner of that business is going to get, hey, here's what's happening with cash this week, so we know exactly what's going to happen this week. And by the way, here's what we are expecting to happen every single week for the next 13 weeks. So we're training them to stop being reactive in their thinking when it comes to cash, kind of like
Yeah.
putting out fires. I've got $10,000 in the bank and $40,000 worth of bills. Which ones do I, to start looking on the horizon, what's happening in the months coming ahead, so that we can start making better decisions if we do see a cash crunch down the road. We have some time to do things strategically to plan and prepare for that cash crunch. One of the things I
Hmm.
tell clients when they start working with us is, hey, because I don't sell your product for you, and I can't make all of the decisions for your business. I help you make decisions, but you make the decisions. Because I can't sell your product for you, I can't guarantee that you're never going to have a cash flow problem. What I can guarantee you is that we won't be surprised by it. Right. So we're going to see weeks ahead of time if there's going to be a cash crunch, and we have time. When you can accomplish almost anything if you have enough time, right? So
Yes. Yes.
we like to see those things coming, so we can put some plans in place to adequately prepare and be able to work through those issues as they come up.
Really interesting. And you're right, reactivity, and even I'm just sort of thinking about some decisions I've made recently. Reactivity is a very, very powerful thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're wired for
Yeah.
it. And our relationship with money has so much just stuff associated with it. There's a lot of fear around it.
Yeah, one of the things that happens pretty commonly, I've seen it a lot of times. When you, as a business owner, you get something comes up because we weren't prepared for it, we weren't looking ahead. We have
Yes.
this huge cash need that comes up. Well, what are your options at that point? You have to go, like, unless you just have an operating line of credit that's got a wide open balance, or you've got some
Right.
reserve funds. What do you end up doing? You end up going and getting really expensive money, right? And so that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the other things that I'll mention to you. You asked earlier, kind of what are some stories or things that where we've been able to make an impact pretty early on. Is a lot of times we get involved with business owners that have made that mistake, like because there wasn't a plan, and they weren't looking on the horizon. They've gotten
Yes.
themselves into situations where their only option was to go get really expensive money. And so we kind of step in, we understand what's going on. We put some processes in place, and then we strategize with them to
Yeah.
restructure that debt in a way that's going to save them, an extensive amount of capital just from interest expense. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
happens. It happens quite a bit, unfortunately.
And whether it's factoring or
Yeah.
these merchant advances, there's all kinds of new industries
Yes.
and ways to make money even more expensive. And it's,
That's
I
right.
think, really interesting to consider that in the context of the fact that we're in this really lengthy bull market. Interest rates have been low for a very long time. That is just, it can't be the way it's going to be forever, right?
Right,
So it's
right.
all the more important now to get your financial house in order because the future is going to be different, right?
No, absolutely. And if we do this thing right, yeah, I love how you explain that, because there's really, if you're in a position, if you're a business owner in your position where you've got a bunch of expensive money out there, um, assuming we can get your financials in a place where we can present an attractive story for a conventional lender.
Yeah.
Now is the best time ever to be thinking about how you restructure debt in an advantageous way, because you're not going to find an environment where the money can be less expensive than it is now. But to your point, there's still a whole lot of very expensive money out there, and business owners, signing up for that hand over fist because they don't know any better and they don't have any other options because there wasn't a plan, right?
Yeah. I'm not an expert on this space, but it's interesting. I have seen I've seen interest rates in like 20, 25%. It's like the equivalent of a
Yeah,
person going into credit card debt.
it's without question. You're
Yeah.
absolutely correct. That's exactly what happens, and with a lot of these things. And again, it's really easy. They make it super easy for a business owner. A lot of times they're tied to, and I won't get into specifics, but they'll be tied to maybe their shopping cart software, or maybe their accounting platform, or there are some platforms that they use. Some of those platforms have a lending arm to them, and they make it very easy, very quick, and very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this makes a ton of sense. And so it sounds like one of the services you provide for business owners is, hey, like, avoid that situation, and we
Yeah.
can help you make a much more attractive case to a conventional lender. And that's
Yeah.
so, I think, sounds like it's one thing you do. And I think that's so underrated because sometimes business owners will just go to a bank, they'll go to a lender, and they'll just sort of talk at them. They won't really think through the fact that this is almost like a lawyer making an argument, right? You got to be really thoughtful about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't have my arms really around how to interpret the current market, as it relates to lending. And because you think back 12 years ago, 15 years ago, and obviously our economy went through a ridiculous amount of grief and struggle, because of really lending practices. And so we're in this position now where, while interest rates are low, while there is a lot of money in the economy, there is inexpensive money out there. There's still a significant amount of scrutiny, from the lender's perspective, and I think it's a good thing. But there's still a certain amount of scrutiny, from the lender's perspective, that even though there's plenty of money in the market, there's low interest rates, and banks have the cash to lend. You're not going to go in there with with financials that don't make sense and expect to get a loan. Like, it's
Right.
just not going to happen in today's market. So you're right. I think that is certainly one of the things that CAP3 is able to do, and is partner with that business owner, get their financial house in order. And that means from the bottom up, like, make sure the financials make sense. We have to,
Yes.
one of the things that's interesting, and this may or may not be surprising. Again, we're dealing with entrepreneurs that have done the best they can. They're phenomenal at what they do. They're just not
Yeah.
accountants.
Yeah.
So, they've done the best that they can. But I've never had a situation where we start an engagement or look at an engagement with a prospect or start an engagement with a client where, when we actually get in first thing, their financials are right. I mean, it just has never happened. Which is very instructive, because this is what that tells me. Let's say they've been in business 5 years, 7 years, or whatever. It means the decisions they've been making all along, they've been using information that's wrong to make those decisions. So if you're
Whoa.
using, yeah,
Yeah.
if you're using information that's not correct, even if you're wise and prudent in your decision making, like, is it reasonable to question the decisions if the information you're using to make those decisions is wrong? Most often what I find is that the business owner has a material misunderstanding of what their true margins are. Like, they don't understand their costs. And so you can think through, like, all the types of scenarios, and it really just compounds on itself, right? That's really kind of what leads to the situation, that coupled with the fact that I don't have a plan for my cash. That's really what leads to the situation that gets a business owner in a position like, hey, I really feel like I'm making money, but there's no money in the bank, and I've got all these bills. I've got to go get some expensive money to tide me over to fourth quarter or whatever, right? It's all these things kind of compile on each other because there's not good systems in place. There aren't good numbers that are true, that are relevant, that are accurate and complete,
Yeah.
so that this business owner can make better decisions.
Yeah, I love that. The one way to think about entrepreneurship is kind of like the search for truth. There's no lying
Yeah.
in entrepreneurship, right? You've got a good
Yeah.
product or you don't. The market wants it
That's
or
right.
it doesn't. And
Yes.
so what an underappreciated aspect of truth our finances are. It's like the truth that is kind of nagging underneath the surface that we ignore
Yeah.
all too often.
Yeah, no, I love that you said that. I love that phrase. There's, there's no lying in entrepreneurship. It's interesting because when in initial conversations with a prospect or a new client, and you
Yeah.
get in there and you start correcting some things and you say, hey, when we were first talking, you thought your margins were 43%. Actually, they're 18. And they'll say, no, that's not right. Really? Like, because it is. Here's where the numbers are. And by the way, if they really were 43%, you'd have lots of cash in the bank, wouldn't you? Right? And you're telling me that we're having cash problems. So if we're having cash problems, and I'm telling you your margins are lower than what you think they are, I'm probably closer to the truth than maybe you were. And again, this is not a situation where we ever like throw shade at a business. This is like we want to come in and open eyes. Like we want them to see what the truth is, so that then we can start building and getting the margins where they need to be. But until we know what they
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
we're living a dream, right?
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes. Oh, you're bang on. It all makes perfect sense to me. Curious to transition for a moment to learn a little bit more about you, Adam.
yeah.
I think the audience would appreciate that. So I'm curious sort of what drives you to do this. I mean, do you have a background in accounting and finance? Why does this mission matter so much to you? Because I can tell from your body language, your energy, it really does.
Yeah. I don't know how much time you have because you just opened up a can of worms. No, I absolutely love what I do. And yeah, I'll kind of tell you how I came about to where we are today. But so my background, my education is in finance, graduate degree, undergrad and graduate degrees in finance, and absolutely love numbers. Always have throughout my life. But have an extensive background from a career standpoint in operations, manufacturing, finance, obviously, accounting. I worked for an organization for over 2 decades, that was in the employee recognition and engagement space, and just learned an amazing amount about running a business during my experience there, and worked for a phenomenal business owner and in that company, and just learned a lot. Also learned about being passionate about continuing to learn. I learned the love of reading and love of learning during my experience there, and so just super thankful for the time that I had there. But throughout my career there, and then leading into where I am now, I really developed this passion for impacting people's lives. So what matters most to me is not a dollar. It's not accumulating wealth. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me
Yes.
is I want someone's life to be better because
Yes.
they met me. What I tell our team here and what I tell our clients, I want the client's life, I want the business owner's life to be better because of CAP3.
Yeah.
Not just their business, their life. I want their life to be different, to be better, to be improved because of CAP3. And I just love entrepreneurs. I love people that put it all out there. They lay it on the line to go create something. Like
Yes.
they risk everything. And like the people that are
Yes.
clients of ours, like they show up every day. No one's making them show up. These people don't have a boss. They are showing up because they owe it to themselves, they owe it to their team, they owe it to the marketplace, and they've laid everything out there. They're putting everything on the line, and it's sink or swim every single day. And I'm passionate about partnering with those types of people and helping them do everything we can to help them be successful. Nothing makes me happier than seeing these people succeed and reach
Yeah.
new levels and reach new heights and reach and accomplish things that they never thought were possible. Really had this is something that happened early last week. I can't help but to smile about it. We had one of our clients went through a successful exit. So they were able to sell their business, and they closed on the transaction last week, and they're in another part of the country. So we had our team here, and we had them on a Teams call. We had sent a bottle of champagne to them, and we had a bottle of champagne here, and we'd popped the cork and just celebrated with them, right? Because this is this was a couple, it was a husband and wife, and they had just poured everything into their business and had built a really, really strong business and had done really well, made some good decisions, had worked with us for quite a while. And we just wanted to celebrate them. We were so happy for them. And that's what wakes us up in the morning. Like, I want to see business owners be able to experience the fruit of their labor, because too many of them out there, and I know this from the conversations that I have with business owners that are starting conversations with CAP3, is too many of them out there, all they have is a very low paying job. Like, they risked everything. And all they did was buy themselves a really low paying, underappreciated job.
Yes.
Right. And I want to change that for business owners. I want to change it to where we're reactive business owners to being proactive. I want to change it to where they're tied and chained to a job to actually having freedom, which is really, when you ask most business owners, the reason they chose entrepreneurship most of the time is because they wanted freedom. Oh, I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to have freedom. Yeah, that doesn't just happen by accident, right? Yeah. And so I love being able to help them see how to get there.
Such important work, and couldn't agree more with all of that. Definitely was my motivation 7 years ago. I'm just like, this is going to be freer. And the human cost of entrepreneurship is another underappreciated element of the story. People have no idea, right? The mental health challenges, the ups and downs. If you haven't, until you've lived it, right? It's really hard to talk about. But conversely, the importance for society is often understated too. So we need creativity, we need risk taking, or we're just going to be a boring place to live. And by the way, the economy won't grow as quickly, right? So we really need it. But it's important to educate entrepreneurs. Often the kind of personality that jumps into it, the psychological literature says that the kind of personality that actually starts a business is usually not the most critical personality. It's usually someone who's quite open to possibilities. Yeah. And so, while that's great, there also needs to be an education around these very common pitfalls that happen, because, we can learn through failure, but wouldn't it be great if we could learn before the failure?
Yes. No, I love that. I agree. And I think that, again, just talking about, and I love that you kind of addressed the psychology behind an entrepreneur and really how they approach things. I just, again, I love people that are willing, they see possibilities. And you said it as you kind of opened the interview today, like the creator CEO, like they see possibilities, and they have something that can change the marketplace, can change their little world, or the world at large. If they just have the right tools and the right counsel and are able to make the right decisions moving forward, it makes everybody wins. And that's the other thing I love about this. This is not about us like partnering with an entrepreneur and helping just the entrepreneur squirrel away money and they're the only. No. This is about an entrepreneur making better decisions for their business, which impacts every one of their employees and every one of their employees' families, and every one of those employees, their networks. And it's like, it's just nothing makes me happy. That's why I get so jazzed about this. It's like nothing makes me happier than seeing these people be successful.
I can feel it all the way up here in New York City. I love it. To move towards the end of our time together, I'm curious, what parameters should listeners who are seeing this interview, what should they, if they think that they may have some financial challenges, or they may want a pair of eyes on what's going on underneath the hood? Do you work with sort of any small business owner? What is there a sort of revenue minimum or maximum? What should someone know in order to opt into potentially working with you?
Yeah, great question. It's tough for me. I don't really like to put like a revenue minimum or maximum. I think that we're pretty agnostic to what industry a business owner has a business in. I think from a a benchmark from a revenue standpoint, our clients tend to be like the smaller clients tend to be in the 1 to 2 million revenue annual revenue range. The larger ones are going to be in the 30, 40, up to maybe 50 million range. Kind of once you get past that level, it probably makes sense to build out a really, really strong internal team. But anywhere in that range, really in any industry, we really enjoy working. We work in professional service industry. We work in lots of product companies, because what we find is those are the ones a lot of times that have a lot of opportunity, because just managing inventory. I'm convinced that inventory in and of itself is the most complicated thing in business. So if you're a product company, and you don't have a really strong controller working for you, or you're not an accountant yourself, there's a good chance that you're probably misunderstanding what's happening from a financial perspective in your business. So any industry, probably in that 1 million to 30, 40, $50 million range. But really what's most important is, hey, I'm an entrepreneur or a business owner that just understands that I don't have all the answers, and I'm willing to go out there and learn what I don't know, like have someone help me, advise me on what I don't know. And when you do, like, you'll listen and take counsel. Now, that doesn't mean what I always tell business owners, you can ask any of my clients, I always tell them, like, I will never know your business as well as you do. I don't have your intuition for your business, because I didn't start it from scratch, right? I didn't, but the value that our firm adds, or any outsourced type of solution would add, is that objective outside perspective. I'm going to tell you just what the numbers are saying, right? Now, you're going to be emotionally tied to your product, or maybe some of your clients, or your business model, or whatever. And sometimes that creates a little bit of tension, and that's okay. That's okay. What we have to do is be able to balance your passion and your intuition and what you know about your business with the objective truth of what the numbers are saying, and then figure out what solution makes sense to get your business to reach the objectives that you've set for it as a business owner. So ultimately, industry doesn't matter, size doesn't really matter. I just want people that are passionate about being successful, about helping the people around them be successful. We don't work with jerks, right? I want people that are passionate about the people around them, and that want to see them be successful, and that will listen and have good conversations. Again, it doesn't mean you're always going to agree with me. That's okay. But we're going to have a conversation and talk through it.
Yeah. Awesome. And last question, when you're not on this incredible mission for CAP3, changing the financial lives of entrepreneurs, what do you do for fun?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't have as much time as I would like to, but it's because I've got a beautiful family. Been married for going on 18 years this year. Got 2 daughters. My oldest is 13. So that says really all I need to say. I've got a 13-year-old daughter, and then my youngest will turn 10 in October. So they keep me really busy. Just absolutely love spending time with them. Do like to exercise, like to get up in the mornings and kind of go to the gym and just try to stay active and all that. And then we live on the coast, so we're here in Wilmington, North Carolina, right here on the southeastern tip of North Carolina. So absolutely love spending time outside on the beach and all that.
Fantastic. Well, I have loved spending time with you today in this interview, Adam. It's been such a pleasure. Your energy is totally infectious. There's sometimes we run a business, other times we run a cause. And for you, it feels like such a cause. So it was just awesome to be with you today.
Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate your time. It's been great.